Greetings, gods and goddesses in training. Welcome back to the channel. It is Uncle Makara. All relations. Let's get started today with a video on the rascal saint Gurdjieff. Okay. Now, Gurdjieff is a very, very important figure in esoteric literature, and he's really been able to break down a certain kind of protocol where you don't necessarily have to go into full asceticism or renunciation, and you don't fully have to go like into the crazy deep end in terms of complete freedom. But there is a middle path that he kind of offers, and I think we as Primal Sutra can kind of see the breakdown of this and help us understand at least what his ideas were and how we can, squeeze the most juice out of it in a certain sense. Pause. So this fuses Eastern mysticism with Western analytical thoughts. So think of it like the hemispheres of the planet, conjoining together. It's forming a bridge between the individual and the collective, right? So think of the ideas between yoga, between science, between esoteric Christianity, and so forth. So one of his core premises and his beliefs is that humans are stuck in a kind of sleeping state. So humanity lives in a mechanical sleep, he says, running on autopilot programs which they mistaken for free will. And the fourth way, his path working, the fourth way, is a goal to awaken, not through retreat or blind devotion, like I said, but by seeing one's mechanicality while acting consciously. So self-observation is the sacred mirror and the first act of rebellion against an unconscious autopilot life. So if you've been living very mundane and, kind of like every day feels like it's the same, you want to try to adopt this madman genius's concepts, embellishing them, because they might just spark something within you. He calls it the way of the sly man as well. The man who cannot renounce anything and yet attains. Instead of withdrawing, he learns to transmute daily life. He uses everything as alchemical fuel for awakening. And I think this is a very important mindset as a mystic, as a neo-shaman in this day and age, is anything that is happening is fuel for my awakening, fuel for my enlightenment, right? So if everything is self-realization fuel, what really is the problem? And what he calls as slyness, we used to have this meme back in the day called Sly Dog from, I don't know if you guys remember Madagascar, right? Where King Julian is calling the giraffe a sly dog, right? Oh, sly dog, right? You remember that scene? Slyness is an intelligence applied inwardly. You're cunning with oneself. You're not being deceitful with others. So that means a sly man steals the fire from heaven while still paying rent on earth. So what are the integration of the three ways into the fourth way? The first way is the fakir, through the body and the endurance. But the limitation is this guy can become rigid and quite pain obsessed, turning into traits of martyrdom and so forth. Then we have the monk, where their focus is emotion and devotion. But the limitation of the monk is that they can become sentimental or sometimes even fanatical. Then we have the third one, the yogi. The yogi's focus is the mind or the intellect, but they can also become very abstract and detached from reality. So the fourth way balances out, or harmonizes, you could say, the intellectual, the emotional, and the physical, each with a different speed and language. So without an inner coordination, these three centers will war with each other, according to him. And this is also what we discovered in Primal Sutra, because the priest beast is the very similar concept, where we have to remain the midpoint between priest and beast, right? Or priestess and beast, which is like a shadow and almost like a surrender archetype. I wouldn't call it the superego because it's something completely different. Yeah, your super consciousness and your subconsciousness. So a human machine that becomes a conscious instrument. So he believed that man is a three-storied being, and true will arises only when the three centers obey a central chain of command. They obey one conscious aim. Otherwise, you'll just live reacting to the world. So this is dope because no monastery required. Your work, your relationships, and even your irritations are part of the laboratory. Every mundane moment is a dojo for your attention. It's always a micro exercise in self-remembrance. So be in the world, not of it, becomes literal training here, maintaining an inner stillness amidst the chaos. When I was learning Tantra back in the day, I would understand that you have to notice you're doing a specific movement, but what if you were just a hollow shell doing that movement, right? Without an awareness of your spirit. It feels very clunky and distant, right? However, if you have a detached wakefulness, right? This sense of ease with it, right? You're not caught up in this character in this meat vessel anymore. You're kind of a little bit zoomed out of it and you're seeing it from a greater perspective. So what's the sly man's secret? Will and higher emotion equals transformation energy. When your higher emotional center joins with your conscious will, it generates a unifying current strong enough to reorganize being. So his key formula was conscious labor and intentional suffering. Conscious labor is doing what's required with awareness, and intentional suffering is enduring friction without escaping to awaken a deeper will. So that means your pain becomes a practice, not a punishment. And I guess he's trying to formulate this kind of anti-fragile nature in individuals. So the fourth way rejects blind belief. Believe in absolutely nothing, verify everything. Now this may leave people sort of paranoid and second-guessing themselves. But in the spiritual science we understand, the inner world must be experimented with, not worshipped. Like a map, you have to test it, you have to walk it, and you have to confirm its landmarks through direct experience or gnosis. So you're not this one self, but you're a swarm of these different eyes, is what he believed. Conflicting voices, different moods, different impulses. And the aim functions as a magnet that unites the scattered iron filings of the psyche. Because without aim, energy leaks in all directions. But will crystallizes in one direction. And most people are living aimless lives. It's almost like we need an approval from someone higher than us, from some greater source than us, in order for us to take actions. But what if we were part of that essential source already? How would that understanding reveal more about our true nature, right? I think there's a reason why Gurdjieff was seen as this kind of controversial character, where people thought he was just rude and obnoxious and like this kind of guy. I think we see that with a lot of leaders, right? We see this, the way that people will project onto a grand figure like that. Because even if, so he inspired Osho, right? Think about this. He inspired so many other, thinkers, including probably Stalin, okay? So we can't get super wrapped up in his ideologies. But he once said, to do, one must first know. But to know, one must discover how to know. So true doing is acting with a unified will. Until then, life just happens to us and the ego just takes credit. So fourth way is almost like an urban gnosis, right? Awakening inside the noise. Daily life becomes dojo. Friction and resistance is just fuel. Use the idea of this world is not real, not as a nihilism in a way for you to distance yourself from everything, but use it as an ignition. So the real thing that he calls the work is self-observation equals self-remembering. He says that the psyche installs these buffers. Facts that contradict our self-image won't register. So shadow work is buffer removal, right? Buffers are like blind spots, okay? And we can only do that in relation to someone else, right? We see it. It's a reminder. So what are his most important points? Most people are living in a waking dream. We think we're awake, but we have moods, thoughts, and emotions that are on automatic. One small compliment or annoyance shifts our entire being. That just goes to show you, you're living under a hypnosis, you're still not free. We want to form a real unified self, not these fragmented eyes, different versions of us. Moods, fears, desires, all fighting with each other, all for control. Philosopher next to a small inner child, next to a jealous lover, next to, a fabricated, imaginary uncle that you talk to. They're all of these different characters stacked up in your mind, these different parts of you, and parts work is also different part of therapy. This is why I love working with characters and characterology and so forth. Because the evolution of man, he said, is the evolution of consciousness. And you can't evolve by accident. Consciousness and will don't grow automatically. They grow by a deliberate effort and presence. One thing that is highly spiritual in his way of thinking is not to cling to ideas, not even sacred ones. Question everything, your beliefs, even your concept of God. Because if truth is real, it survives your doubt and it returns brighter. Gurdjieff taught that it's sincere, total wishing for another's good. Like you really want them to win too, right? That bodhicitta. With your whole presence can in fact alter reality. Compassion can in fact alter reality. So that means real love is energetic. It's not this sentimental thing that we've made it out to be. So for you, enough of the fantasizing and, romanticizing universal love. Make it something tangible. This was the final lesson of his, in fact. Because by his later years, he became less of a cold master and more of a very warm mystic. Feeding the poor in Nazi-occupied Paris, cooking for neighbors, giving candy to children. His last teaching was very simple. Serve humanity while staying conscious. And I think truly, guys, this has been a mission of mine since day one, is just to give back, to help others who are also fragments of myself, right? Different parts of my psyche being seen as people, reminding me of the same lessons until I finally get it, right? And isn't this Earth School, isn't this journey of spirituality and life where we all start to decipher this thing? And I've had to learn the hard way that suffering does create a bit of friction. Real growth only happens under friction. Resist the automatic impulse and you choose consciously. That's when you start generating this real will and seeing yourself as you are, not what you imagine about you. Even polishing the floor consciously is greater than writing 25 books unconsciously. Thinking, feeling, body. Work within all of these three centers, guys, and you will find this fourth way come alive for you. I hope this gave you a new perspective, and I hope it helped you change some of the views on Gurdjieff. If you have any questions, let me know. Have an incredible rest of your day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. You got this, we got this. Upward spiral, gang, to infinity and beyond. Boom.